Hi, y'all. Welcome to Looking Through the Glass. Today we're here with Jeselle, as always, and Noah. Hi, Noah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good.
Well, she says weird. She's doing good. I'm doing fantastic.
I know I'm speaking for her. I apologize. I don't mean to speak for you.
It's just the parents speaking for us. I'm just gonna be honest. I very much know how to call her out. So
Wanted you to make sure. I think your microphone's turned off.
Mine?
Mine or hers?
Giselle's.
Oh, I think if we're honest.
We're in the same room.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you not hear her?
I can hear her. I just wanted to make sure before y'all.
Oh yeah, no, we're in the same.
recording.
We're literally sitting across the table from each other.
Well, we're gonna echo, and I don't think anybody wants us to echo.
You don't need to hear us more than once.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. He's like, well, you guys said you weren't tech savvy.
I'm okay with that call out. It's okay.
Yeah. So Noah, Lethal, your podcast is Lethal Venom, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do on your podcast?
Yeah, so my podcast is a variety show. It's more of a kind of tell all. No, nothing really gets held back. I wanted it to be kind of a truth-telling, very truth-telling podcast. Growing up, no one around me really wanted me to really speak my truth or anything about that. So I always was kind of kept silent. And the podcast has been kind of a way for me to finally get my voice out there and heard, to where I can finally be able to share what I was going through and what I've been through, and finally get that message out there, and finally have it where people can really finally listen to what I have to say. I've had numerous guests on my show. I've done very widely scattered topics. I've talked about had comedians on that have shed some laughs, and then I've had people come on here that have talked about drug use, with mental health struggles from abuse, whether it was sexually or domestically. I've had very good conversations with a lot of people, and the whole thing that I kind of generalize as the main mission is, I want you to just kind of speak your truth. I want you to kind of have your voice out there. Don't hold anything back. But I always create like a safe space, because I know with some of the harder topics, it's very hard to talk about. So I always have said, if you don't want to talk about this for today, we don't have to talk about it. I always kind of put respect out there first and let them know that it's a safe space. I'm not going to try to force them to say anything for viral moments, for like viral clips online. I don't draw it for attention. I do it as a way for them to kind of heal from that. So that's kind of how the general show kind of goes. It's it started out solo, and then I actually got an email from Alex, that's the main creator of Podmatch, and he had actually reached out to me and said that he had heard my podcast and thought that it was a great podcast, that would you be interested in wanting to come on our network. And at the time I was hesitant, because I had gotten a lot of scam emails and about job opportunities, or just kind of opportunities like that before, and I thought, oh, it's going to be another scam email. But I thought, but it's for podcasts, and so in the back of my mind I thought, well, maybe it's a sign, because it was something I always wanted to do. So I did research, looked into it, didn't find anything that seemed out of the ordinary. I didn't really see any scams. I didn't see any negative reviews at all. And I thought, you know what, I can just sign up. It was only like $6 a month for hosts. I thought, if all fails, I just cancel the subscription and kind of just go that. But it's honestly been the best decision I made, because I've met so many amazing people on there.
Same with us.
We've been
our podcast. Sorry, Giselle. Our podcasts are actually designed pretty similar. We have the same thing. We, my daughter didn't have a voice growing up. I didn't have a voice growing up. We both have suffered a lot of traumas. I'm also in recovery. We like to take people's raw stories. We like to be unapologetically raw, is what we like to be. and and not for the clicks, not for any of that, but just for a safe place for people to be able to tell their story, because there's healing in it. There's
Mm.
so much healing in that, and we kind of do this for ourselves
Yeah.
more than anything. This is a selfish thing that we do because it's so much fun, and but it's also we like to be what we never had.
Yeah, it's been really beneficial for me. I found it as therapeutic for me as well. It's been at first the first few episodes I posted are probably some of the most personal ones I've posted.
Hmm.
Um, I I kind of did a lot about my mental health struggle growing up, and then dealt with that, and then I also kind of really talked about just my school, what I dealt with when I was in school, from time I was in kindergarten to when I graduated from college, and then the I kind of called my classmates out and told my honest opinion about them, and was finally just able to really tell them off. And those kind of episodes really got a lot of steam and a lot of hatred that I've had for years out. I felt so much better after I had got done with that, and then I also had made a very personalized episode about my father, and it was actually a very raw episode. I didn't actually edit it at all. I actually recorded it and posted the rawness of it on there. I didn't even go in there and edit the whole episode at all. I think the only thing that I might have done was cut the ending out or something, like kind of, I guess, where you could hear the clicking of my mouse to hit the end button. I think that was like the only thing I cut out of the episode was that. Everything else was kept in. The awkward pauses, the long filler words. I just wanted it to be a raw thing, because that's been one thing that I've not really been able to say, has been about my dad and all that. So it was a way to finally get my anger out towards him on the podcast.
Yeah, Giselle told her full story about her assaults, sexual assaults. Talked about my ex-husband, who was extremely abusive to both of us. I came out and talked about a rape. I've got another one we need to do. That one's a little bit harder. This one was when I lived with an actual psychopath, literally kidnapping and raping a woman. So we've got some raw stories as well. That's pretty cool. I like how a lot of people are coming out and giving others safe places and giving themselves a safe place as well to actually speak their truth and do these kind of things. It's nice.
It's beautiful. I like that we can build a community and have other people like you, Noah, who have already started that, and think that there are more of us out there, and letting other people know, even if you're not comfortable coming to two females, there's
There's other people
there's
that
other
are.
people who are willing to have an open space.
Yeah, for me, when it came to mental health, one of the main reasons why I really was open about it was men tend to have the world kind of has this persona for men when it comes to mental health, where they're supposed to be the man of the family, and nothing's really supposed to get them down. They're supposed to have skin and all this, and it's some men are like that, have that kind of persona and put that facade on, where it's, yeah, nothing gets me down, I have tough skin, I don't cry about anything. And I was kind of had been told that too, from not necessarily my parents, but just from everyone else. It was just
Society
always
in
a
general.
it was just always a thing of, well, you're not supposed to show emotion. And I kind of had that for years, and then when I started talking about my mental health journey a lot of people kind of praised me for being open about it, and was really saying that most people would never have said all that about what was going on. So it was always kind of, I always thought that I'm just going to do it because I want to have it out there. I don't want people to think that they need to stay silent. And even some women do the same thing. They're scared to open up because they're scared to how people are going to react, and they don't know if they're going to make fun of them for it. Like people made fun of me for not having a dad growing up. People always made fun of me because it was not normal, and it was a kind of an odd thing for a family in the South to not have a dad and a mom. And so I was always constantly made fun of for that. And then I was just bullied in general for anything. Like anything I did I was bullied for. It was, and I had to keep it quiet because if I opened up about it, I could get beat up or something from being snitched. But one thing that kind of amazed and I look back on is I never got into a fight with anyone. Like no one ever actually beat me up or bullied me that way, which I kind of look back and I'm a little surprised that I wasn't like the prime target to like for bullies to beat up on, and I would get into fights with anyone. I was kind of surprised, looking back retrospectively. I'm a little shocked that that didn't happen because I was one of those people that they would pick on and would probably push around and fight all the time.
I have to agree with that. I've been bullied through school for, that's something that's not talked about. It's talked about but not taken care of. As I was bullied all through school, kindergarten. I think high school was when it wasn't as bad.
Yeah.
And that's also because I went to 4 different high schools in 3 different states. But and being the new kid sometimes made it very awkward. But I was harassed in middle school, and I had the teacher looking at me because the kid would harass me, run and tell him, oh well, she was doing it to me, and then I would get in trouble, and I would have witnesses going, no, he was doing it to her. And I never was physically beat up either. I got in one fight, and that was my freshman year, and that was because she attacked me from behind, and it wasn't even at the school. And but that was the only time I ever was in a physical altercation at school or outside of school. So I have to agree. It was always verbally. It was always emotionally picked on. I was always the fat girl or something like that. So I do understand that part, and I think that's the most common kind of bullying.
Yeah, they seem to be more verbal than physical. It was hurt. It's hurtful, 100% hurtful, and I kind of have to agree with you about high school. High school kind of mellowed out a little bit for me, and I think it was because the main group of people that were causing it got separated from me, so I wasn't hanging around them. Now, granted, I was still not hanging around a good group of people. I look back and I thought I wasn't around good people, but it was kind of the only group that would accept me or at least talk to me or something, because I didn't fit into a certain bubble. I was always, here's like the cool kids, here's people that play or in band, here's the smart people. I was just always in my own group. I didn't really fit in with anyone because no one wanted to interact with me. And it really sucks when you're in school and getting bullied and you can't stand up for yourself because you get in trouble for it as well. That was always a thing that I never really did, was stand up for myself or kind of snap back at them, because then they could go until I would get in trouble for it, and it would either get in-school suspension, I would get suspended from school completely. So it was just kind of a losing battle, kind of. It was never a win-win situation. It was always, for me, a lose-lose situation.
I think that's still the case in a lot of situations, a lot of schools. I mean, we're in Texas, so we understand the South thing, and it's at my kid's school, if my son's standing up for himself, he gets in trouble. And it's like, no, I'm going to punish my child for speaking up and standing up for themselves. I fight with school districts so much. It's so bad that they don't call me, my husband.
Right. And I think it's for parents, I think kids need to stand up for themselves, but it's if they do, they get in trouble for it as well when it was not even their fault. And I think school leaders should be more acceptive and lenient against that rule. Whereas if they're standing up for themselves and fighting back, they shouldn't get in trouble for standing up for themselves. But of course, they kind of have to. They just kind of put it under the rug. My teachers didn't really do anything when it came to bullying, anyways. It was kind of a, well, I can't really do anything. Kids are going to be kids, and I would always talk to them about it. One instance in particular was, and this wasn't the decision I wanted to do. When I was in 5th grade, I had just started middle school, and there was a kid in my class that was very kind of a bully, was a huge bully, and he would always pick on me and everything. Now, I don't remember this particularly, but my mom, I remember, told me that I remember you came home and had bruises on you from him. And I don't remember him being physical with me, because I feel like if that would have happened, that would have stuck with me forever. I don't remember that. So I don't know if she is getting confused with something else, because I don't remember him putting hands on me or anything. But it got so bad that they actually took me out of the class and put me in with another class. And it ended up being worse. It was actually a worse decision. I actually liked the class and homeroom that I was in, and the group of classmates that I traveled with all day. I liked everyone in there. It was just him that was the problem. But instead of removing him, they took me out of the class. And of course, my class looked over and saw me in this group, and they were confused and was like, "Why are you over there?" And it was like, I'm in this class now. I didn't switch home rooms, but when it came to regular classes, that's the classroom I traveled with. Luckily, it was only for a short period of time. I think it was at like the end of the school year when I got moved in, so like a month and a half. So I wasn't with them for a long time. But that class was just awful that I got put in, and it was just like I kind of wish it was take him out, put him in that class, and leave me in here. But we really didn't have a say in that. It just kind of ended up happening that way. So that was one of those instances where I was like, well, that was a very lose-lose situation. I got put into like a more worse class.
That is something that happened to me. That actually happened in my high school year. And I mean, I've had an instance where a teacher bullied me. But in my high school year, I had a kid that was very much bullying me and calling me names, and I called him out in front of the class. And when we got sent to our principal's office, I got told that I had to get removed from the classroom and switch classes and all this and that. And I wasn't very happy about it, because I'm like, I wasn't the one that caused the problem. It was him. And he's the one that was causing the nuisance. Like,
that was in Vegas, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was when we lived in Las Vegas, and it was a fight with that one, because I was being blamed for it all. They were like, I was instigating when I was just sitting there, and he was across from me, and he just started talking and calling me names, and my weight has always been a target for bullies. That's just an easy target for them. And so it was very much, he just said that one thing and it just set me off. I was very much done with it. I was like, you need to stop. And it's, you can't even say it to my face at this point. And so that's the immediate is, oh, we're going to remove this person because he finally said something. Or
they're removing the target and not removing the problem is what the issue is. You're displacing the one that's not causing it, and not displacing the one that needs to be displaced. In my opinion.
Have you, out of curiosity, have you ever had a teacher be a problem?
That's a good thing that you brought up a teacher. Yes and no. Yes, but for completely different other reasons that caused. I actually ended up getting anxiety from a teacher. He actually kind of was the main purpose and real cause of me getting anxiety and having my anxiety disorder. Um,
Wow.
I it happened senior year of all years. It was like the second quarter, so it was literally a few months before I had to graduate. I was like this close to graduating from high school, and he taught. I remember it was American history or government history, and of course it got real political and stuff like that in there. And at the time, I just wasn't a real huge political person. I just didn't care about that kind of history. Um,
Most high school students aren't.
so that was a class that I really didn't care for. It was essentially just notes that were about this long, where it was we had to type them or write them real fast, and it was it was like a college level class for a high school. It's what it felt like. Because I remember one day we walked in class and he was like, "I'm not going to really have notes up on the screen. Just take notes as I'm talking." And we're like, "Well." So it was a fully college level class that he was trying to portray, and during this time, my my depression wasn't really doing well at the time because it was kind of around the same time my grandmother's anniversary of her dying was coming up. It was, I think, 3 years at that point. Had been 3 years, and I recently had lost a dog too at that time. And we had to put a dog down that I had since I was little. So January was just kind of a rough time into February. Well, during that time, I was dealing with some kind of sick illness. I can't really decipher what it was. If it was like a cold, if it was like a flu type illness that I was dealing with. But I remember that in the middle of the night or when I would wake up for school, I would get nauseous to the point where I'd throw up. And it was, at first I thought, oh, I had the flu again or have some kind of sickness. I didn't think anything of it. But this kind of happened off and on for a month and ended up going into 2 months, and it was just odd. It was really different. I said, okay, something's going on here. Because why is this only happening in the morning time or in the middle of the night? I would go to bed probably about 10:30, and then would wake up at 7. Usually around 1 or 2 a.m. and sometimes 3 a.m. I would just wake up in bed nauseous. And of course, you don't want to move because you don't want to trigger the nausea and to throw up. You don't want to trigger that. I was always anti that. Don't ever hate doing that. So, but it would get to that point where I'd have to get up and go to the bathroom. And this happened off and on for a month. And I told my mom, I said, something's not right. Something's going on. And she said, do you think it's your depression causing it? And I said, well, because at that point I had depression for about 4 years. I had been dealing with that for 4 years at that point. And I said, well, I don't remember this being a huge symptom and a huge problem when it came to my depression disorder. And I said, I don't think it's my depression. If it is, then this is a news flash for me. This is a new symptom. So we went to my physician and said, something's going on with him. He's waking up for school every day, nauseous. There were points where I'd have to stay home because it was so bad. And then I would also wake up in the middle of the night and would puke. And to me, it drains my energy. And I'm sure for anyone, when you're sick, you get drained energy from throwing up or vomiting or anything like that. You get really physically exhausted. And that's how I was every time it happened. I was so exhausted. My doctor at the time, he was kind of baffled about what was going on because he said, this is very out of the ordinary for you. Nothing comes back. You don't have a fever. You don't have any flu symptoms. You don't have any kind of... all your tests come back normal. And so it was essentially him saying, I don't know what's wrong. And you never want to go to a doctor and that be the diagnosis. Is I don't know. It's scary. um, did he said, is there something going on personally with you that might be triggering this? And I said, well, honestly, I don't know, because I was hanging around a good group of people in school. I was doing really well. I was making all A's at the time, and was just not academically wasn't struggling. So I said, I don't know if it's that. My depression, of course, was kind of acting up with it being February or March, because that's usually when my depression spikes, is first of the year due to this past stuff that's happened. And I said, I just don't really know what's going on. He said, do you think it's school related? And I said, well, if it is, I don't know what would be causing it. And he said, well, let's try to figure out something. I want you to stay out of school just for this week, and let's see if it's causing it. And he said, while we're out of school this week, I want to do some more research and see if we can finally figure out what's going on. So I stayed out of school that week, and surely enough, I didn't have really the symptoms. I thought, so it is school related. I said, okay, what's the problem? What's causing it? And it kind of went back to that history teacher. I said, it has to be him. It has to be him that's causing it. Because I've had hard classes in the past, and I've never got to the point where it would actually make me throw up for nerves. And so we went back to the doctor that first week, and he said, I did some more research, and I think you have anxiety. I think the reason why we couldn't catch it was because you don't have any of the common symptoms that most people with anxiety have. And it's usually, when you hear anxiety, you hear tightness in your chest, you can't breathe, you're shaking. And I would shake, but it would be after I would vomit, because I would lose a lot of energy and I'd start shaking.
Yeah.
So he said, but in some cases like this, anxiety attacks can trigger vomiting. That could actually be your equivalent to an anxiety attack, is you actually getting to the point where you throw up. So he said for most people it's you can't breathe and you have a real pain in your chest, but for this instance it seems like it's more of a sickness that causes your thing. And I said, okay. Well, then it was the step of, well, how do we stop it? And he said, I can give you some options. You can either do homeschooling and just do it from home. And he said, if you need help with the homeschooling and trying to get this finalized and everything, I can send a doctor's note in. I can come or put a word in saying, I'm ordering him to stay home. This is what's happening. And I could refer you and give you a good note for that. And I said, well, if this is what's going to stop it, then I said, let's do it. Well, luckily we ended up not having to do it because COVID happened right at that time. And so the schools had shut down. But by that time, the damage was already done. The month that I was out, I think in total I missed a month worth of school just because. And of course, during this time, no one ever reached out and been like, are you okay? What's going on? No one ever really cared or said anything at that point about what was going on. So, I had lost 20 pounds during that time because of all the vomiting I did. I weighed 140 at the time before it happened. I weighed 120 by the time it was finally diagnosed. A lot of my strength was gone at that point. I lost a lot of fat in my hands, so I was basically skin and bones. I had to get put on a very strict and very on Ensure, and I had to drink one of those a day. And for people that don't know what that is, it's basically a weight gaining protein shake that you get basically in any stores. He actually prescribed that to me, so that was actually a prescription that I had for me to do, was drink one a day to help gain the weight back. A lot of my strength in my hands have really gone. I've noticed that I'm real shaky with my left hand. If I kind of move my hand at an odd angle, I don't have a lot of good strength in my left arm. Opening bottles has been also a struggle for me. I can't open really any kind of Coke bottle at the time because it actually would peel the skin back on my fingers because of all the skin that I had and all the weight that I had lost. So I actually would get blisters along kind of the rims of my fingers here. So I have to kind of open stuff up with whether a gripper or I have to kind of use my shirt to kind of hold. It's a little better now, but it's not. It's still kind of a struggle for me. Sometimes it sometimes happens, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of my strength in my legs have gone away too. Um, when I was going down steps, I would shake and my whole body would shake just from weakness going down steps, and um, I had severe repercussions even after that too. My anxiety was really bad. Anything made me nervous to the point where I would actually have the nausea and vomiting spells. Whether it was just going 5 minutes down the road to a friend's house, whether it was going to a grocery store I've been to since I was a baby, anything. It was just anything. And then if anything changed as well as like scheduling or a plan shift, it would trigger the anxiety attack. It was a very exhausting thing. And then COVID didn't help any because then I actually ended up getting COVID as well. I actually ended up having COVID for 6 months. I actually couldn't smell or taste anything for 6 months straight. All the weight that I had actually built up had actually gone away because I actually ended up and started not eating again. I got real depressed to the point where I wanted to do suicide really bad during that time. So 2020 for me was just not for most people wasn't a good year with the pandemic, but for me especially, I had lost a pet. I had all this stuff happen with my weight. I ended up getting COVID, and then it was just a really downward spiral. There were so many times during that year I just wanted to just quit with everything that was going on. And when I graduated, everyone had left me, so I was basically alone. The only people I had with me was my mom and my grandfather at the time. Those were the only two people that I had close to me that actually cared or was concerned about me. No one else could give two shits about what was going on. It was just kind of I was tossed out to the wolves as like a decaying body for them to kind of feed off of. That's kind of how it was. But I kind of focused on myself a lot during that time. That's when I started becoming an advocate for it. And I said, I don't want to be quiet. I want to be loud and just say all this stuff about what was going on and everything. And I was just kind of drained at that point, but it ended up getting better. And my anxiety now is actually kind of 100% contained. It's I actually ended up going to a psychiatrist. They got me on really good anxiety medication to where I actually can do a lot of stuff now. I actually flew from Atlanta to Seattle to visit one of my best friends I had met during my time of healing, and it wasn't nervous at all during that whole trip. So my anxiety actually went away during that time. So it was beneficial. The depression comes and goes. I have clinical depression is what I was diagnosed with. And for anyone that doesn't quite know what that means, clinical depression is a form of depression that comes and goes in waves. It's hard to also kind of detect. It can come and stay persistent for 3 months and then go away for 2 days, then comes back for 4 years and then goes away for 9 years. There's just really no kind of determination of like, okay, this is when it's going to happen, when it's going to end. There are parts of the year where it does kind of spike due to this past trauma and this, what everything I've gone through, but it kind of, that's a little bit about how my mental health journey's been and just kind of how. So to answer your very long question, yes, it kind of has been from a teacher. the teacher kind of caused the whole anxiety thing.
I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties. Giselle's laptop kicked her out. She's still in the room, so she
Yeah,
can't
you
hear
could
you.
still. Yeah, I heard you all. And you're not gonna see me. I'm gonna talk to you anyways.
Can you hear her?
I can, yes.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
should.
just making sure. It's a podcast, anyways, right?
Hmm.
So I can completely understand. Mine didn't go to that severe. Oh my goodness, like
Yeah.
you went through so much, and I went through it more of the mental battle, but I did not face the physicalness of it. Maybe I think maybe that might be. I say the weight is because of it. I say that we store trauma in our bodies. Um, but um, mine was in second grade. I was in second grade, and my teacher. I mean, my teacher put her hands on me. She
Hmm.
smacked me in the back of the head with a hardcover
A
thick
hardcover
book,
thick book. Oh yeah.
all because I got one question wrong on a test. It was not even an actual test. It was just like a one of those little pre-tests they did to us in
Yeah.
elementary. Um, and then she would, because I was a heavier set kid, I would always be extra hungry, and get a second lunch. And she would have the entire, and we ate in our classroom, and she would have the entire classroom pick on me. I would stand at the front of the room, and she would tell them to make fun of me. And and it was getting, really bad. And I told my mom, I finally found the comfort into telling her, and she went to the school, and they removed me from the classroom to another class. And
It,
that,
it made it worse.
just like how yeah, it made it so much worse. And then she would start having the kids pick on me and tell that I was a liar, and that I was just too sensitive. Or we would be on the playground, and they would just sit there and follow me around the entire playground. And it was so horrifying. I was in second grade, so I was really young. And yeah, that has stuck with me my entire life. That's something I have always looked back on. And she wasn't the only teacher that's ever picked on me. I've had another teacher that picked on me. And middle school into high school, well, middle school, I had a teacher that targeted me too.
Hmm.
It's like I always
And then
had. And I had a dean that was in
the
the
dean
same
and the
school.
teacher were best friends, and Jeselle went off on the teacher because she was doing everything she could to get her grade up, but this teacher wouldn't lift her grade up. She kept her at
Mm.
an F, and
For 4 months.
for 4 months would not bring up her percentage or anything. So it was literally she was not grading Giselle's paper, and so Giselle's getting in trouble at home, and because I'm like, why are you failing this class? Why are you failing this class? And she was like, well, it's the teacher, it's the teacher, it's the teacher. And she kept going to her every single day. She went to this teacher saying, okay, what do I need to do to make up to get my grade up? And the teacher would have her do a whole bunch of work, but wouldn't lift her grade up. Would not lift her grade up. So then Jeselle went off on her and told her basically that you're a piece of crap teacher, and if you don't love your job, then maybe you should quit.
That's when
And
I started learning about having a voice.
and she wasn't right. I mean, she was right in a sense. If you hate your job that much, then if you've lost it, then maybe you shouldn't continue being and doing it,
Right.
especially when you're shaping children's minds. You know, and and so the principal, so she ended up getting. She went and said to the dean. The dean wouldn't let her call me. They tried calling me, and my number had changed, and
Mm.
and they wouldn't let her call me. It was bad. It was really bad. She ended up getting kicked out for a week or whatever, but it was pretty messed up. We went through a lot of that, but in Las Vegas especially, um, there's a whole lot of racism down in Las Vegas, and because we lived in the bad part, it was against the white people. Yeah, it was,
It was everybody against everybody down there,
yeah,
but
it's literally got everybody against everybody down there. And Las Vegas is so gang ridden. You have all, like with me during high school, it was White Fence was trying to make a place in Las Vegas, and I lived down in their territory, so I got jumped every day. I got Pepsi cans kicked thrown at the back of my head, And then when I threw it back and happened to have aim, I got in trouble. You know?
But yeah, the bullying is really bad, and I do feel that maybe that teacher, now that you kind of gave me the anxiety of speaking out more than anything, because there's situations I did finally get enough of it and started speaking out, but there was a lot of situations, and like a lot of situations I never spoke out about, and didn't know how to speak out about it or approach it, or if I was going to speak out about it, I was going to get in trouble.
Hmm. That happens a lot, I think, especially with teenagers. I don't think that
Yeah.
we really pay attention to the amount of pressure that they have going on in their lives, because it's not just at home. They have a whole another life, just like we do as an adults. We have a work life, but they have a school life. They have a school family. They have a school, it's a whole another world.
And
And
here
here
they
they
are
are
trying to
trying to
balance out
balance out
two
two
different,
different
completely different worlds, and I think it's really, really rough, especially when you're going through all the hormonal changes, and between the ages of 12, 13, 15, those are when the hormones really start kicking in, and the brain is completely rewiring, the body's completely rewiring, everything's going on. The brain just can't remember things all of that stuff that nobody, I call it dumbass stage. We all go through it, but that's what I call it with dogs. But, we all go through it. And I don't think that we give teenagers
There's enough support, enough resources where, we all say we hear them, but I don't think we really truly do.
No.
Yeah, one of the I never really got into verbal fights with teachers because it was always kind of a losing battle. But there was one instance where I remember. I was in eighth grade and we had a science teacher. She was kind of real snobby. Even when we did parent teacher night, when we first met her, she just automatically off the bat kind of turned her nose up to us, and my mom looked at me and she went, mm-mm. She was like, nope. I can already tell she's gonna be trouble, and
Sounds like
she
my mom.
she was like, one instance, there was a grade that I had done that she had not put in yet. And this was kind of the night before I went to bed to wake up for school the next day. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to ask her about it tomorrow when I get there. So I go in her classroom, and I think it might have been during PE. I think I had run down to her classroom because I think she didn't have anyone in her classroom at that point. And I asked her, I said, hey, I was just wondering if this grade got put in. She said, yes, it's in there. And I said, well, I checked it last night. It wasn't in there. And she said, well, I'll pull it up since you think I'm lying. I mean, immediately got like an attitude, and it was one of those things where I couldn't say anything, which at that point I probably wouldn't have said anything to begin with, because I was kind of like, at that point I was so kind of quiet and would always never really stand up for myself. But looking back at it now, I definitely would have said something. I'd been like, well. And then another time was my senior year was with that history teacher. He kind of got mouthy with me a little bit about something. It was actually weird. This was right before COVID had actually got closed down, and our school board had actually announced that with COVID being kind of coming up, that if you don't want to come to school tomorrow, you don't have to. It's not a recommendation. I pulled into school and actually was the only one of like 10 kids that was there, and
Oh.
so everyone in the school took that literally. I said, oh, I didn't honestly think people would not show up, but okay. I was the only one in my homeroom that showed up, and I thought, okay. When I pulled in, I thought, do I even want to go in? It was one of those things of like, do I just go back home? There's no one here. But I had a test I had to make up. So I thought, well, I can't go home. And so we're sitting in homeroom, and my history teacher, it was always sucked because I had him first period. So I had him first block of the day. And he came in there and I said, well, did I have any work caught up? And he said, well, did I post anything on Google Classroom? And he said, and I said, no. Then no, you don't have anything to make up. Making it like I was the dumb one for asking. Like, well, excuse me for asking, just to make sure.
Yeah.
If I would have known that was my last day of seeing him, I definitely would have said something. Because I actually had taken my test. I actually went and took it, and I was like, I'm not seeing her all day. So I went up to the office and I said, well, at first texted my mom and I said, there's no one here. Can you come check me out? I don't want to stay here all day. I'm the only one from my grade here. Everyone else is not here. I said, I'm not staying here all day. And she said, see what the office says. I said, well, maybe. Just go talk to them and see if you can check yourself out. Because that wasn't allowed. But since it was limited students, I thought maybe there's a chance that they would let me check myself out. So I went to the office and I actually had turned an excuse in from where I was out of school that whole week to see if my anxiety was so bad. And during that time, so I went up to the office and put in a excuse, and the SO officer there kind of got mouthy with me. She said, why are you even here? And I said, well, first off, I had to make up a test. I've been out sick, so you don't have to have no attitude with me. It was literally like, but actually the secretary actually spoke up that sat at the front, and he said he was out sick, he's just here, he came to school today and back days up. And she kind of just kept quiet. I asked her in there, I said, is there a way I can check myself out since there's nobody here? And she said, I can't let you do that. However, if your mom calls up here to the front, I'll let her check you out over the phone. And I said, okay. So I texted my mom and told her, I said, they're going to let me check out. They said if you call them, just call the front office and tell them that you're checking me out. After I take my test, I'll be coming home. And she said, okay. She called, and I went and took my math quiz, and after it was done, I left. And so I was there only for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then after that, they canceled school for we went on to a 3-week break for spring break, and we're coming back in April, which ended up being closed for the rest of the semester. So it ended up okay, but I'm one of those people that was kind of glad COVID had happened, because I really was able to focus on myself mentally and was able to really get a lot of my strength up during that time. So I'm kind of cocky to say, but I was kind of grateful COVID happened, due to the fact that I could really focus on myself and kind of get my mental health back up and going. Because I think if I would have kept going to school, I probably would have ended up in the hospital, or probably would have ended up dying.
Sounds like it, how skinny you were and all the, how it was affecting you physically, not just mentally and emotionally, but physically. You were going through it in all the aspects.
So I'll be honest, you're younger than me, so it definitely and that you're about my brother's age, and I would say that what he went through, I would say he went through a lot of the similar things in high school. He's not one to talk about it, and I of course won't ever force it out of him, but being on the outskirts and seeing what he's faced, being an outcast, or not really an outcast, but just not having the friends or the right friends, people who just actually care, because teenagers don't care. I will be honest, teenagers just don't care when they're in that age frame, and that's because not all of us, but a lot of us are in a very selfish state of mind. We're all going through something. We're all going through, like she said, the hormonal changes, and
There's just so much
figuring
going
out
on at
life,
once.
because we're being told you need to figure out what you're going to be when you leave high school, because if you don't, they very much treat us like tell us that we're going to be like the scum of the earth. At least to me, that's what it felt like. It felt very like you need to figure out what you're going to do, and it's very hard. Is that how you felt? Because I mean, that's how I felt with high school, especially going to 4 of them.
kind of repeat the question? How did I feel?
With when you're like being in high school, especially junior, senior, being told you need to figure out what you're gonna do, and how did it make you feel? Because it very much to me felt like we were, if we didn't find something, we're gonna be left.
I felt lost, really, because um, no one at that point, I don't think, was dealing with the same stuff I was dealing with. So it was a thing of, well, they're not going to understand what I'm going through. They're not going to get it. They're not going to really fully grasp what's going on. Um, so I felt lost basically even when I first got diagnosed with depression. I was just a very lost puppy. I had really no one to go and lean on. No one could relate to what I was thinking because no one was vocal about it, and I was not vocal about it either. Because I don't think people would have cared what I was going through, but I also thought they're gonna judge me no matter what. So no one really came out and really asked if I was okay. So I just kind of felt like an outcast. Honestly, in school, I was pretty very much an outcast. Never really felt like I belonged with any of them. They didn't really. Even after graduation, I've been on podcasts. I've had my own episode where I talk about it. I've been talking about on other podcasts. I've shared it. I've not really had a lot of people reach out and say, I didn't really expect you going through experiencing all this. Early on, I did post, like, on my social media page, I did post something with my mental health. And I did get some students from my class to kind of reach out and say, oh, I really never understood and knew that you had gone through that and dealt with that. So that was kind of the first time that they learned it. But they really, honestly, could have cared less, really, about what I was going through. They were just kind of focused on themselves, honestly.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, did you go to like a smaller town school?
Yes, I went to I'm from a small farm town, so we kind of had a small school, but our school was still pretty big, considering when we were in middle school, we were kind of the biggest middle school class to go through there at the time. We had over 100 students in our grade, which most schools have thousands and thousands of kids. I think we did, but by the time high school came around, I think a lot of people had moved at that point and kind of fizzled out. I think our graduating class ended up being around 100 or maybe a little less than 100, if I remember correctly. So a lot of people from our grade kind of moved or transferred schools, so we didn't have much as we started out with. But it was still fairly small compared to like a bigger city school. But yeah, it was a small farm town that we were in, but we still had a pretty good amount of students in each grade.
I asked that because a lot of the things that you're talking about sounds very similar to what I went through when I went to a small town school. I went to so the 4 high schools, of course. 3 of them were bigger city schools. And I was used to bigger city schools. That's what I grew up in, Las Vegas. My sophomore year, I moved to Oklahoma, and I went to a small town, K through 12 school that was 300 students altogether. And, that was not fun, especially being a city girl into this small town school. And they were very judgmental, and they were very, they all grew up together, so they were like, this is my clique, this is, we all know each other, we're friends, you're not our friend. Or they'll pretend and be very nice and then turn around and talk about me behind my back and spread rumors. And so it very much sounded, a lot of it, the teachers and and how they acted sounded very similar to what I faced in that school. That was where my um, the loneliest I ever felt.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if it's gotten better since I've been out there or not. Um, I will say this though about we never really had any people that did suicide during, from my knowledge, that were in school from my grade at the time, and even grades above and below me. To my knowledge, I didn't remember any mental health cases get to the point where they actually did commit suicide or something bad happened to them. I'm pretty sure enough that I think it was, a lot of people did have depression growing up. I mean, I look back at it now and I see like a lot of people did have depression. I could see it. But at the time I was kind of blindsided by it. They were, yeah, kind of very open about, they weren't open about it. I kind of just, as a retrospect, can look back at it as like, oh yeah, they definitely had it growing up. Now, it was, I don't know if it's changed now. I hope it has, but I don't know. A lot of the teachers that I had going out there are not there anymore. They actually have either retired or they actually had gone to another school. So I can't really speak on it. I haven't really heard any like troubling things out there when it comes to bullying. So maybe it's better now, but when I was there, it was very profound that it was not taken care of.
I will say that one, I really appreciate you sharing your story. It's something I don't think we've had on our show is the targeting on bullying and the way it affects our mental health. Um, but and it's something that I know that my siblings are facing in their school. They are in a smaller town school, not as small as the Oklahoma one, but I do think that maybe where you're at is a little different because it's Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that.
It's a little more stuck in the southern ways than where we are.
Yeah, and so
Not to say that that's a bad thing, but
no, but there's some things that are just what I call generational traumas and are passed down, and there's generational plays in we're gonna be this way or you're gonna think this way, and a lot of these people may not know that they are facing the mental trauma or the mental problems that are talked about.
Yeah, I think bullying to me was very much put under the rug. I think it was something that they didn't want really out there in the world for people to know. It was common. I mean, I could see it. It happened, and they didn't really do anything about it. They always would have, like, people come by or talk to us about bullying or stuff, but even if I look back, I don't really think that they really even showed videos of what causes bullying or not. The only thing I remember was, in middle school we watched Cyberbully, which was kind of I think it was an ABC Family movie, had Emily Osment in it, and it kind of showed the side effects of what cyberbullying can do and suicide and all that. That's probably the closest that they've probably came to awareness that they showed. Other than that, I don't remember really anything about if they had speakers come and they showed like inspirational videos or anything. That was about the only thing I remember that they showed about bullying. So
Yeah, they really sheltered because I'm my years. Oh my goodness!
It was all over the place in Las Vegas. Did it do any good? No.
No, because just as teachers, they don't care, or it's there's nothing I can do about that.
I think there's a huge disconnection between the teachers and students, is what I think. And I believe that a lot of the policies help implement those disconnections as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that I think there's a better way that needs to for the discussions of bullying and bringing it to awareness, but also being able to recognize it in what's going on with the kids.
Yeah, I think it's something that needs to be brought to the attention, because bullying can have really serious consequences, and that it can really have very unbearable repercussions from it. I think it needs to be something that a lot of people need to be more vocal about and open to share. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that in my middle school they probably had posters up, but it's like the same thing, like y'all said. What good is a poster gonna do? I mean, it's something they look by and just continue on. I mean, it's not. They could have it plastered up on the wall as much as they want, but people are not gonna follow it.
Mm-mm. No, they typically don't. I think that a lot of the solutions that they come up with are not actual applicable solutions for the teenagers or for the kids. They're applicable for an adult, but not a kid.
I can tell you how bad it is right now. There is the school district that I went to in Las Vegas is being sued right now
For suicide,
for
for
a
bullying.
13-year-old girl committing suicide for bullying, and the school was aware of
Mhm.
her situation.
Yep.
That's how bad it's gotten.
Yeah. There's a big, huge issue with teenagers committing suicide over being bullied, and it's not the ones that are committing suicide that are the issue. The issue are the bulliers.
I feel like I'm wrong on her age.
She was 12.
Yeah,
She was 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she was 12.
it's very sad, and this is another topic. This is a topic I would love to keep bringing up, and thank you for bringing it up. Noah, I really appreciate you being on and talking and giving a little bit of your stories. I know that was only a little bit.
Yeah, I think it kind of covers the main overview about what I kind of been real passionate about is my mental health. And the podcast has just been such a huge avenue for people to really be themselves. And it I never expected the podcast to be as successful as it is. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, I appreciate and love that you're so raw and honest about what you've been through. Because most people could never make a whole 40-minute episode about mental health. They can never do a 20-minute episode about your dad. Because I'll briefly touch. My mom was sexually assaulted by him. I was conceived through a rape, honestly, from him. They never really called him either, so it's kind of a whole mystery about who my father is to this day. My mom had actually no prior knowledge to him at all. What started out as like a break-in, he wanted, I think originally this was going to be a robbery, and then I guess when he saw that a woman was living there by herself, he decided to go a step further and commit more crime. So he probably would have been charged with sexual assault as well as burglary. But by the time the police had gotten there, he was long gone. He was nowhere to be found. He had just left. The police tried finding him, but by the time they got there, there was really no case leading to what had happened. And my mom had no prior knowledge about who he was before, so they couldn't really put a name or any kind of relationship to it. So he's to this day a mystery. I've never really have met him. It's always been interesting to me is like, have I walked by him and I just don't know about it? Have I talked to him and I don't know about it? It's just been one of those things where it's been interesting to know what he's like and what he looks like, because I kind of want to be able to put a name and a face to someone. But
Yeah.
but my mom did a really good job of trying to keep a normal childhood for me. She tried to keep it as normal as possible. She didn't want it to. She wanted to keep the typical family name, and wanted to kind of have the typical household that you see on TV all the time. And she did a really good job doing it, and because I know most women would not have been able to do that by themselves, but she did a fantastic job being able to really double down and be like, you know what, this is what's happening. I'm going to step up and take care of you. And she's done a really good job of trying to do it really well. And she's been really hard working at it. But yeah, it's a little bit of my story, but you know, I'm always so vocal about it because of what we've kind of all talked about. People are scared to mention it and bring it up. And so I kind of want my podcast to be a way for this message to get brought up, and to be a place where people can really be relatable to it about. So it's done really well, and hopefully it'll continue to grow.
Speaking of your podcast, if people want to go onto your podcast to talk about their story, how would they get a hold of you?
You're more than welcome to send me an email, lethalvenompod@gmail.com. You can feel free to email me on there. If you're on Podmatch, feel free to find Lethal Venom on Podmatch as well, and just send a message to connect. I'd be more than happy to have you on the show. You can also kind of reach out to me on social media as well. Social media tends to be gets a little lost because messages don't really get sent through. So if you kind of want more of a definite answer, email or Podmatch would be the best. LinkedIn's also a good way to find me on there. So find me on LinkedIn as well. It's just my first and last name, Noah May, on there. If you see the person is standing by a tiger, that's me. That's kind of the Obby, which is the mascot I went to when I went to Auburn. So if you see kind of a mascot in the picture, you found the right profile. And if it says Auburn and Lethal Venom and everything on there, you found the right profile. So feel free to connect with me on there and send me a message. I'd be more than happy to reach out on there. But yeah, if you want to send me a message on social media, Instagram and TikTok, it's Lethal Venom Podcast on there. Facebook, Twitter and YouTube, it's Noah's Podcasts. Feel free to connect with me on there. And Lethal Venom's available wherever you get your podcasts. On all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart Radio, YouTube, Pandora. It's available on there as well as other platforms. So feel free to just kind of listen to podcasts on there, and feel free to subscribe to where you get notified when new episodes come out.
Fantastic. We appreciate you coming on here, like Jeselle said, and being so open and honest. And again, thank you for being another safe place for others. You know, I don't think that there's enough of them. I think that there's no such thing as too many safe places, and I think that we all can reach different people, and we're all meant to reach different people. Your computer's messed up, so we can't put up the looking through the glass stuff.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to just say it like he said it, and hope that somebody comes out there. We're very much on a lot of the same platforms as Noah. And as everybody says, if you can also reach out to us if you feel more comfortable. Either way, that's why we have people like us. You can reach out to us through our email, which is 12lookinthrough34theglass@gmail.com. Yes, it's a long email.
Not my fault.
You can reach out on this TikTok as well. We are looking through the glass, like at the drive-through again. And we are also on Facebook. You can look us up as we're looking through the glass as well. And we're of course on Spotify, Apple Music, and on YouTube. We are expanding a little bit more on other platforms where we're getting there. But Noah, thank you so much.
And if you want to
get a hold of us through Podmatch, you can get a hold of us through Podmatch. That is such.
We truly love it.
Yeah. So again, thank you.
Look at it.